Hi everyone, how are you? I hope you are all fine. As you all know me, I am Madhavi, your biology teacher from BRGS. Today we are going to start new lesson, our environment. Let's get into it. What is ecosystem? A community of living organisms in conjunction with the non-living components of their environment interacting as a system. Ecosystem means interaction between living organisms and non-living components. So that system is called ecosystem. Living organisms, you all know that you and me, like humans and other plants, animals, these are all living organisms. And non-living components means what? Like soil, water, air. So these are all non-living components. So the interaction between living organisms and non-living components, so that such system is called ecosystem. And components of ecosystem. So what are the components? Here biotic components and abiotic components. So as you can see, living things and non-living things. Living things are nothing but biotic components and non-living things are nothing but abiotic components. See here, living things are, these are all the living things, this is the non-living things. Okay, living things means plants, animals, bacteria, fungus and protists. Protists are nothing but like unicellular organisms are called protists. And abiotic abiotic things means like water, soil, light, minerals, air, these are all abiotic. So abiotic means non-living things, biotic means living things. Okay, fine. Next, let's move on. Yeah, what is food chain? What is food chain? A food chain is a series of organisms that eat one another. Means here we are depending upon others, like other things for food. Like see, if you get energy, you need food. You are getting food. You are getting energy from food. So here all the in the world, okay, all the organisms depending upon another organism for food. So that is called a food chain. So a food chain is a series of organisms. It is a series of organisms. It is a dependency for the food. So series of organisms that eat one another, so that energy and nutrients flow from one to the next. So see here, it starts from plants. Okay, this is grass. So plants can prepare their own food by photosynthesis, and that food will be eaten by one animal. Those are suppose for example grasshopper. Okay, and from there grasshopper is eaten by frog, and frog eaten by snake, and snake eaten by eagle. Okay, so this is what again finally what happens from the producers to composers. These are all composers. This is producer. Okay, plants are producers. Always plants give food, so that is why plants called producers. And from the producers, so this is consumer. Once again you can see here properly. Yeah, see here, these are all primary consumers. Grasshopper is called primary consumer, and this grasshopper is eaten by what? Frog. Yes or not? Yes, this is secondary consumer, and frog is eaten by snake. This is tertiary consumer. This is tertiary consumer. And this is final consumer. Eagle is a final consumer. And these are all what? These are all decomposers. Means from producer to here final consumer. These are all the after a while it will be like dead and decay matters. So that such dead and decay matters, these decomposers will take in the food from these dead and decay matters. So these are called decomposers. Okay, finally decomposers will take the food from this, from producers to final composers, final consumers. These producers to final consumers, those dead bodies are otherwise dead and decay matters. These decomposers will take the food from these dead and decay matters. Okay, I hope you understood. Very good. So this is what? Food chain. Next. So here you have to understand that what are the primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, and final consumers. We will learn about this terminology and all in detail in further. Yeah. See, these are all the trophic levels of the food chain. See, each step or level of food chain forms a trophic level. See, we have seen before slide that there are some of the levels depending upon the organisms feed on them. Okay, so each step or level of the food chain forms a trophic level. Suppose here this is green algae, means unicellular, means like you can say plant. Okay, this is primary producer. Primary producer, it is a this is called what? This is one level, one trophic level. This is called primary producer. From here to this is producer. Okay, from here to this is primary consumer. So producers are always, like you can say that plants are primary producers always, and this is primary consumer. Okay, and this is secondary consumer, this is tertiary consumer. Finally final consumer is also there. But in the trophic levels, mainly 4 types of levels are there. Okay, producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, and tertiary consumers. Okay, primary consumers always plants. Okay, then it will go to primary consumer. This is primary producers. Okay, sorry, primary producers are plants, and here and primary consumers are these things. Okay, one second. Yeah. Okay, so primary consumers are this. And what are primary consumers? Primary consumers always depending upon producers. Okay, so primary secondary consumers are always depending upon primary consumers. Primary consumers have the food mostly are herbivores. Primary consumers are also called herbivores. Herbivores means what? They eat plants, the organisms which they eat plants. So those are called primary consumers. And the secondary consumers are nothing but, you can say, carnivores. Carnivores means what? Carnivores, like with example, whatever, see in this our environment class, whatever the question they ask, you have to answer with the examples, then it would be so nice. So that's why here green algae is eaten by molluscus. Molluscus are eaten by, see, some of the fishes here, and these fishes are eaten by big fishes. Okay, so like this, these are all the, this is one type of food chain. Okay, so next. Yeah. What is food web? Food web is a graph that shows all the trophic interactions between various species in an ecosystem. So that is eating related. Here, trophic levels we are differentiated on the depending upon what eating relation. Yes or not? So the interactions between the trophic levels of various species is in an ecosystem, that is also in a graphical picture. Okay, so that is called food web. Suppose if you take plants here, okay, plants are eaten by many animals, not only grasshopper, butterflies and fruit flies. So these are all the many. So plant is plant one plant is eaten by many animals, so that animal can also eaten by many animals. So like this, see as you can see here in this food web diagram, you can understand better. Okay, so this is called food web. So this is a video for better understanding and to acquire more knowledge. So let us watch this video.
You look weak and tired.
So much pollution around. I feel sick. But who are you?
I'm Mark, an astronaut, and I have been sent on a space mission. Industrialization and technology have changed the environment.
Let me take you on an environmental tour to show you why I feel choked and unwell. I will show you how various factors in the environment interact with each other and how human beings impact the environment. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to explain what an ecosystem is, identify the role of the producers, consumers, and the decomposers in the food chain, and list a few of the environmental problems caused by our negligence. The environment comprises the air you breathe, the water that covers the surface, the animals and the plants around you, and much more. The environment is made up of various ecosystems like gardens, lakes, forests, etc. An ecosystem is a place where living organisms and the non-living components of the environment interact with each other. All organisms, such as plants, animals, microorganisms, and human beings, as well as the physical surroundings, interact with each other and maintain a balance in nature. All these living organisms in an area interact with the non-living constituents of the environment, and such interaction is referred to as ecosystem. Thus, an ecosystem consists of biotic components comprising living organisms and abiotic components comprising physical factors like temperature, rainfall, wind, soil, and minerals.
It looks wonderful from here. But are there any specific roles that each of these animals play in the ecosystem? Or do they all contribute equally to the ecosystem?
Organisms in the ecosystem are grouped as producers, consumers, and decomposers based on the manner in which they sustain themselves in the environment. Producers are organisms that produce their own food without the help of any other organisms. They make their food from inorganic substances They are also known as autotrophs. All green plants and certain blue-green algae, which can produce food by photosynthesis, come under this category. Consumers are organisms that cannot produce their own food and depend on producers for their food. Consumers are known as heterotrophs. They depend on autotrophs for their food. These organisms consume the food produced either directly from the producers or indirectly by feeding on other consumers. Consumers can be classified as herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, and parasites. Decomposers help to decompose the dead remains of organisms. In the process, complex molecules are broken down into simpler molecules.
If they decompose the dead remains, how does it help the ecosystem?
The decomposed material is used up by other organisms, primarily plants, as nutrients for their sustenance. Let me sum it up. Decomposers are also known as organisms of decay or saprobes. They are microorganisms that break down the dead remains and waste products of organisms that can be used by other members of the ecosystem. Bacteria and fungi are examples of saprobes. We have spoken about the groups of organisms in an ecosystem. This brings us to a series or a chain.
What is this chain?
It is a flow of energy from one species to another, to yet another, and so on. You have seen organisms that feed on one another to sustain themselves in the ecosystem. This develops a food chain in the ecosystem. Food chains describes the feeding relationships between organisms within an ecosystem. Let us take this chart as an example. It depicts the different organisms that are connected in an ecosystem. The arrows in the chart connect the lower level organism that is consumed by the higher level organism.
This seems to show the flow of energy transfer. The way energy is passed from the producer to the consumer?
Correct. Each step or level of the food chain forms a trophic level. Trophic levels are categorized as per their feeding behavior. The autotrophs or the producers, that is, the plants, are at the first trophic level. The herbivores or the primary consumers, like bees, insects, come at the second level. Small carnivores like rats, snakes, or secondary consumers come at the third level, and larger carnivores like an eagle or tertiary consumers form the fourth trophic level. Did you know that a huge amount of energy is lost at each stage in the food chain?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Why do we eat?
To get energy.
The food you eat acts as fuel and provides energy for work. This energy is passed on to the various trophic levels right from the producers to the tertiary consumers. Autotrophs capture the energy present in sunlight and convert it into chemical energy. This energy supports all the activities of the living world. From the autotrophs, the energy through the food chain goes to the heterotrophs. So, when one form of energy is changed to another, some energy is lost to the environment in forms such as solid waste, movement energy, and heat energy, which cannot be used again. Therefore, only a small amount of energy is transferred to the next trophic level.
So what is the amount of energy that is transferred from one trophic level to the next?
The green plants in a terrestrial ecosystem capture about 1% of the energy of sunlight that falls on their leaves and converts it into food energy. When these green plants are eaten by primary consumers, a great deal of energy is lost as heat to the environment. Some amount goes into digestion and in work, and the rest goes towards growth and reproduction. An average of 10% of the food eaten is turned into its own body and made available for the next level of consumers. Therefore, 10% can be taken as the average value for the amount of organic matter that reaches the next level of consumers.
With only 10% of energy reaching the next level, isn't it difficult to manage the ecosystem?
Well, it certainly limits the number of trophic levels in a food chain. There are generally a greater number of individuals at the lower trophic levels of an ecosystem. The length and the complexity of food chains vary greatly. Each organism is generally eaten by two or more other kinds of organisms, which in turn are eaten by several other organisms.
This is something like the plants and fruits eaten by goats, cows, rats, and rabbits. And subsequently, rats being eaten by owls, or snakes, or cats.
That's right. Instead of a straight line food chain, the relationship can be shown as a series of branching lines called a food web. Did you know that unknowingly harmful chemicals can enter your body through the food chain?
Oh,
One of the reasons is the use of several pesticides and other chemicals to protect crops from diseases and pests. These chemicals are either washed down into the soil or into water bodies. These are absorbed from the soil by the plants along with water and minerals, and these are taken up by aquatic plants and animals from water bodies. This is one of the ways in which they enter the food chain.
why isn't anything being done about it?
As these chemicals are not degradable, these get accumulated progressively at each trophic level. As human beings occupy the top level in any food chain, the maximum concentration of these chemicals gets accumulated in your body. This phenomenon is known as biological magnification.
Try to watch the video 2 to 3 times till you get the topic. So thank you for watching. Keep smiling. Have a great day.